pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
I'd like to welcome everybody to our work session. I don't have any yellow cards. So we're going to kick off to the National HRS Summit. We're going to move so that you all can have this area up here.
We'll just trade places. Hi!
Hello.
My favorite time of the year. Okay, so before we get started, I'm going to have everybody just introduce themselves and say what they teach so that you guys can get a good sense for that, and then I will kick us off. So, Rachel LaFaver, Director of Teaching and Learning.
Josh Langseth, Elementary Principal.
Eric Vetch, 5-6 Social Studies.
I'm April Rice and I teach 3rd grade.
Melanie Lindquist, High School French.
Lexi Humphrey, Elementary Special Ed. Molly Stockman, High School Special Education.
Greg Gentry, English in the high school.
So you will notice that our presentation does not follow Pine River Bacchus branding this time. We have I'm Loving It. And so you might wonder, why are we following the theme of I'm Loving It? For our final keynote, it was Tina Bogren, again, and she is all about educator wellness. And as we were getting ready to leave, we were told to huddle up and think of a word or phrase that represented our learning from HRS. We couldn't do that in that moment. I mean, we just, I think, said go team or something like that. But then as we were getting ready to go back to the airport, get on the plane, one of the things that stuck with me is everywhere we went, Josh figured we should go to McDonald's. Every meal, every time we were going to get coffee. Rachel, there's a McDonald's. Or it was ba-da-ba-ba-ba. And so it was McDonald's. But then the thing that stuck with me was McDonald's is I'm loving it. So with HRS, whether you're talking about proficiency scales, whether you're talking about school culture, whether you're talking about educator wellness, the phrase I'm loving it fits with all of it. So, of course, I had to find a slide deck that met with McDonald's. And then every time we think about what we're going to bring back to you, we think about our big rocks. So what about HRS did we love from our time down there that we wanted to come back and share with you? So, I'm loving it. And we're just going to go through our key points. You don't have to click on anything here, but when I share it with you when we're done, you'll be able to click on our names and get the entire presentation. So, Mr. Langseth, start us out.
So the one thing that I had lots of things. I'm being honest, I waited till they went and filled out theirs so that I just added. And I think Rachel did the same thing. But so some of the things they're going to talk about, I also had down as some like highlights from the week. The one thing that I really pulled away and learned from the time, because HRS is new to me. I didn't come from a system that had HRS. So is quick data and using quick data and getting quick data things from HRS. So the purpose of quick data in HRS is to get short cycle information that leaders and teams can use to quickly monitor whether a practice is working, make adjustments, those types of things. So then I came up with, I believe there's 6 like values or important parts of why quick data is essential to a school system. Timeliness, it helps identify issues rather than just waiting for big things to come at the end of the year. So you can talk through those things with your leadership team or just different grade levels or groups to quickly identify what you need to work on. Actionable information, so it focuses on information that the staff can immediately act on, not just analyze. So you're getting all that quick data, you have a lot of different points from that, whatever whatever you pick is what you want to look at, and then you can work on growing in that area. It provides continuous monitoring. So one area that came to mind when I was thinking about quick data was like our end of the day pickup time. You know, I could have our gals that help with that. We could create some quick data on how did it go this day, or what are some things that you see that need some improvement, and then we can use that as quick continuous data. Well, this week went really well, or this month was really bad, or this is one thing that we see that needs to be fixed as a big overarching thing. So you can continuously monitor it. It's quick stuff, so it's easy for them. You can make a Google form or something like that, and they can just have it on their phone or something, and at the end of every pickup day, if that's for the example I'm using, they can quickly just fill out a couple questions, and we have some reoccurring data that we can utilize. Simplicity, it should be simple and easy. Like I said, a couple, 2-3 questions, use a Google form, or that to me is one of the easiest ways because everybody has a phone, so you can just pull it out and do it quick. But make it simple, not super in-depth. Transparency and shared ownership, so sharing it with, like I said, your PLCs, if it's a specific grade level, your leadership team, a department potentially. It just depends on what the quick data is, so that everyone can see the progress or the challenges, and it makes it easier to have those conversations. And then the last one, early indicator of success or failures. Leading indicators that shows whether strategies are working for larger lagging indicators like test scores will show up. And then, once I finished that, I went to ChatGPT and I asked them to create a fancy little poster. So this goes with the 6 points that I had come up with. And so there's a poster that I could use for future if I wanted to. I will add, off topic, we never went to McDonald's.
We just walk by it every day.
We did walk by it every day.
Mr. Gentry.
This is me. First things first, you might notice I'm lacking my normal vitality and excitement. I've been sick. I've taken so much NyQuil and Benadryl. I'm not convinced that anybody in the room is real. But that said, I did vocabulary instruction because in English you have to teach kids new words occasionally, and it's not always the easiest. But the metaphor I came up with when I made the slide that I thought was a lot more clever before I was actually presenting it to people was like the brain is a box of fries, and each fry is a new word. And you can only eat so many fries at a time before you get sick of fries and start throwing up fries. But also, if you want to enjoy eating the fries, you need a variety of fries. So like, it's sort of like if you've ever had to run the concession stand or like the popcorn machine in the concession stand. People come up and complain because it's too salty, and they complain it's not salty enough. So you have to kind of alternate between a really salty batch and a no salt. It's the same with the French fries. You want some that are medium salty, some that aren't salted at all, and then some that are really salty. And that's vocabulary, because just like you can only eat so many fries before you throw up, students can only learn about 10 words in a day, and this goes up or down depending on the student, obviously, but at the high school, especially when they're learning like purely academic terms, again, those are all like really salty fries. So you can only eat so many of those salty vocab words before you start throwing up vocab, and you can't learn anymore. And with that said, unlike eating actually kind of like eating French fries, you need constant repetition, so it's sort of like you eat so many fries that then you can eat unlimited fries. But when you're learning a vocab word, you can't just get it one time and then expect to memorize it forever. It needs to pop up in multiple different environments. You need to like get fries from multiple different restaurants with different salt, whatever. And kids need to interact with it more than once. It can't just exist in a vacuum, which is what this part means here. That you need to get it in different contexts. Like the word floor. If you're a kid and you're taught that the floor is like what's underneath your bed in your bedroom, when you go to somebody else's house and you're in their kitchen, you don't intuitively recognize that what you're standing on, the tiles, are also a floor. You need to recognize that a floor exists in multiple different contexts, and your bedroom just happens to be one example. And that seems obvious, but it goes without saying a lot of times I think we forget that, especially when it comes to academic terms. So if you teach them a new long word in the context of a book, you need to come back to it later in the year when you're reading another book. Otherwise, they only associate it with that one book and or just forget about it. And so at the high school level, we mostly, as I mentioned, are teaching those academic terms, which are classified as something called Tier 3 terms, which somebody else, I think Molly or somebody maybe is going to talk about this a little bit. too, but the really fast version is that simple words are tier 1, and then tier 2 words build off of those tier 1 words, and then your tier 3 ones are again the field or academic specific words. Like the example I have on there is intertextuality. This is a word I teach my 10th graders. It's about the relationship between multiple texts and how they inform each other. That's something you'd only know if you're in a specific academic context. It's not something you're going to encounter in the wild. Somebody has to specifically put a lot of salt on that fry. It's not going to get salted by itself. And I'm going to be honest, I don't really remember what I meant by this, but like you need to know the context of a word and its full background and its use before you can actually use it correctly. Otherwise, it's like looking at a menu and like imagine you go to like a foreign country or something, you don't speak the language, you're just looking at words in the menu and you're like, well, I'll get that. And you think it's chicken. Turns out it's not, it's like a pie or something because you don't know the context or the background of the term. And that doesn't totally connect to French fries, but hopefully you get the idea, and if you don't, I'm open to questions.
I think it was a very good analogy, Bill, personally.
Thank you.
I'll remind you tomorrow.
Tier 1, 2, and 3 instruction, Molly?
So I'm talking about tier 1, tier 2, and tier 3 instruction and how it connects to MTSS or RTI. And the quote that stuck out the most to me when I was down in San Antonio was that when we look at our RTI triangle or level of instruction, thank you. So these levels of instruction, we don't funnel students from one level to the next. Students can be receiving tier 1, tier 2, and tier 3 instruction. We don't move them, like if they're not successful from tier 1, we're not just moving them to a totally different classroom for tier 2. So tier 1 instruction includes like our grade level, our whole group instruction, and that's where all students receive tier 1 instruction, and that's where we see like 80 to 90% of our students growing from that tier 1 instruction. Tier 2 instruction is targeted at, I call them our yellow students. Like they're almost meeting our grade level benchmarks, but they need a little bit more intervention to meet our grade level benchmarks. And then tier 3 instruction serves our smallest group of students and addresses large and lingering gaps. So in both our elementary and our high school buildings, we do have MTSS teams that meet every month, and they focus on those students not meeting their grade level benchmarks. Tools that we use at school to target and find these students include FastBridge. This year we used the CAPTI Basics reading assessment, and that's really like our students that are in tier 3. What underlying reading skill do they need so that they can keep moving up to read efficiently? And then we also have like content area committees. This year I get to be a part of our language arts committee, and we're working on just creating like reading instruction up in the high school, and like those committees consist of our language arts teachers, but we also have interventionists and special ed teachers on that committee just to ensure that all of our students are receiving tier 1, tier 2, and tier 3 as needed. So that's all I have.
You would almost think that to me, that pyramid should turn upside down, because you're looking at the mass of the students is at 80 to 90%, and when you get down, but then again, you don't want to funnel it down. As you look at it, it's just for me, and when I look at it, it should be, this is where we actually exist. This is, we talk about discipline, we talk about 10% of the kids could cause 90% of the problems, or you just flip flop it here. So.
There are some who do a double diamond, and so they'll create it this way, and they'll say 80 to 90 are here, and then as you go out, these are our kids who need tier 2 intervention and tier 2 enrichment, tier 3. So they'll create the diamond, but they'll create it both sides. So it's just flipped, and it's both ways.
It's very good.
That's me. So at the HRS Summit, we could pick different breakout sessions, and every time I would look for Tina because she was just phenomenal. And her focus was on self-care and just everyday educator wellness. And so I picked the book that I believe you guys bought me. And so it's mostly, it talks about how we all have our own needs and what we can do to take good care of ourselves to be good educators. And not only that, but to be better wives, better mothers, husbands, children, etc. And so each of us have our own self needs, more sleep, quiet time, family time, whatever that may be. And so putting ourselves first helps us to be better educators, and I'm excited. I've dug into it a little bit, but I'm excited just to take her ideas and take better care of myself. So that's all I have.
Drink the stupid water.
Yes, drink the stupid water was her little slogan.
If you can't find the water.
I'll run it, cause I think I have a diet. You need to drink the water. Let me see, I wanna see if
So it goes, yeah.
I'm gonna go this way, I think. No, wait. No, I have to remember which order I wanted to do this in. No, that was right. No, it was the other way. Sorry. Okay, so I chose my top, well, first of all, I wanna say thank you for your support of sending a crew every year to this. This was the how many?
This,
Sixth?
I have it in a doc, I think the
I think
first.
some-
A lot of years. Seventh year, so it's really cool, and I love that our school is the size that we're able to work like K-12 like we are, because a lot of the other people that I talk to, that's not the case, they're just really big schools, so they can't do what we can do, so it's an awesome thing, so thank you for that. So I chose my, I kind of wrote, here's my notes, as I'm like moving closer and closer to the like top of the seniority list, I feel like, well, I think I'm like number 4 or 5 now, and when Janice Oakley is gone next year, I keep getting up closer and closer, so I'm starting to be closer to the end to the beginning, and I like, feel like it's my turn to start looking at the next generation of people coming up and how are we gonna keep them here, because this is scary. And also, and the other part is that my daughter is in college, she's in her 2nd year of school, my oldest daughter is going to be a social studies teacher, she's at Bemidji State. She is planning on student teaching next spring with Tim Ramler, who used to be a teacher here, and she was super inspired by him, and she's teaching in Brainerd now, and so I can see how we affected her here, but I'm also nervous for her entering this profession that I love so much because of this. So, you know, we have nearly 1 in 8 teaching positions that are left vacant. Roughly half of new teachers leave within the first 5 years. They are describing their first year teaching as arduous, confusing, chaotic, and overwhelming. And they're not, and I still think this is more of an issue at the university level, but they're not teaching, they are discovering what is required of the practice of teaching isn't exactly what they were learning in college. And part of that is you just don't know what you don't know. But I can see with my own daughter, like how excited she is, that she wants to get in, she wants to do all this stuff, and I don't want this to happen to her. So that brings us to what can we do then?
It's this. Okay, go ahead.
So we do have a solid mentorship program in place already here, and so that's what I wanna just make sure in my, last 10 years or whatever I have, that we keep that a priority and follow with fidelity, because I feel like our school's future and just our education and public education system in general is really gonna depend on us really not just saying we have a program and then like kind of doing a few things here and there, or checking in with your new teachers once a quarter. We need more than that. So we talked about this. This is, your first year teachers, their phases of first year teachers' attitudes about teaching, anticipation. They hit rock bottom, disillusionment right around that November to January time. We're starting to kind of come up, ooh, spring break, and they're reflecting in anticipation. And you can see what kind of support we need to give. And this is not just first year teachers, it's for veteran teachers too. That's what she talks about, but my heart is thinking about those first year early teachers. And then, oops, wrong way. This is just like kind of superimposing where that happens in our support system. So I don't know, I just see myself, I know Tina Hannikin, when she was here, was really like doing a lot of this, and Rachel is doing a lot of it now. Rachel has a lot on her plate. I don't even know who's on our mentorship committee, or even if we have one. So I don't know, that's just where I see myself going, is just kind of digging into this and making sure, because we'll have some, we're gonna have new ones coming in these next 2 years as some of us older ones are going, so.
So how it works is the committee was put in place to revamp our mentorship program, because through HRS Quick Data, we found that that was an area lacking. And so there was a committee put together to say what should our mentorship program look like. So that is how this came to be. So we focus on our mentors, saying here's support for you as a mentor. And there's month by month things that our mentors do with their mentee that leads through each of these: physical, instructional, emotional, and institutional. So when our new teachers come in and do their new teacher workshop, we also meet with mentors and say, here's how you work through this with your mentee. And then what happens is when we have somebody new hired, the principals reach out to people in the building and say, I think you would be a good fit to be a mentor. And then I meet with the mentors either before or during that new teacher workshop. And then there's that ongoing support.
Yeah, and I was a mentor when we first started.
Yes.
With this all connected to her books, and it was really good. My person, unfortunately, was gone after that year, but not, whatever. So that was the only time I had anything to do with it, and it was good. Like, I think we're doing the right thing. I just wanna, I wanna pin it back to the top and just make sure that we're sticking with it. That's what's important.
Me? Alright. So, I know, I believe it's HRS 1 has a lot to do with school culture, right? Like, and whatnot, but what I learned when I was there, and also thank you guys for letting me go on that trip, that was amazing, eye-opening, so I appreciate that very much. It's very lifting. I wish more of our teachers would want to do it, because it's something they could just learn from. A lot of things hit me. I could have talked about so much, but I did pick culture because culture, even though it's HRS 1, it's something that's gonna change every year, right, in the building. So, and we always have to maybe do a better job, I think, as a whole group, as teachers, is staying on top of that culture. And again, culture equals beliefs plus behavior, right? But it starts with us as the adults, okay? Our beliefs and our behavior have to be at a certain level, and we have to maintain that one, you know? And again, we're not perfect. We may slip once in a while. It happens, but again, if you add these things up, it impacts the stakeholder achievement, not just with the students, but with the community, with the parents, with everybody that's involved. What we believe influences how we act. Okay, so our beliefs as educators is going to influence how we kind of act in our building, and it's going to impact our children. It impacts student behavior for everybody. What we do and how we do things impacts morale for everybody. Okay, and then last, every adult in our building contributes to the student success and failures. And if we keep going more towards success, then that's going to build more trust, not just with our kids, but within our community as well. So, and then how can we continually improve our school culture? Students needs belonging and rigor. Okay, we have to make our kids feel like they belong. We have to bring them in, welcome them, which I think we do a very good job of that as a group. Like every morning we're out in the hallways, we're saying hi to kids. You got little kids coming up and giving you hugs. You're like, okay, I don't even know you yet, but and it's a beautiful thing. But we got to maintain that. We got to keep that. Us as the teachers have to be out there and be up front, and then also lead by example. Staff needs support and collaboration from admin and from everybody, right? We all need to kind of work together. And then the family needs equal trust and communication. If we have good communication to our families and they trust us, then it's going to just help build our school up, not just in our school, but our community as well will help bring that up. And we all need a shared purpose. To me, like for culture, for our school culture right now, I think in just what I, based off of what I learned here to what I see as a fourth year teacher in this building, is the fact that we all need to, I think, become as adults especially as educators, be on the same page when it comes to student expectations, how we discipline, how we do things, right? Because if we're all doing the same thing, it does not leave gray area for children or students to bend that or contort that, right? If that makes sense to people. I know my team is very solid when it comes to that stuff. Our expectations are pretty high. Our classroom behaviors are way down now. Hallway behaviors, lunchroom behaviors, right? Recess behaviors, But at the end of the day, I think we can improve there as a group, right? And I think everybody in the building can group. So like, as teachers at Pine River Bacchus, I think all of us need to take a step back and kind of look at how we're doing things to help our culture keep going up. Because I think that would benefit our community and our students even more. So, and then Anthony Muhammad, this is the book that you guys bought for me, so thank you. I'm in the middle of reading it, but Anthony Muhammad, there's a quote in there that says, when a school's culture is in harmony with its goals, the culture itself becomes a catalyst for achievement. And I think with school culture, if we can help kind of bring back everybody to the fold and start getting on the same page as a group, everybody, I think you're gonna see our community and everybody else start supporting us even more and more and try to build this thing up, so. Thanks. Oh, sorry.
And then I was most interested in proficiency skills. Going down there as a special education teacher, I kind of had to broaden my lens of how does this apply to special ed in my classroom, to kind of how does this apply to our whole building and everything we're doing. And proficiency skills was something that we initially started in PLC teams before Rachel's time, and then we kind of backed up, hit pause on that. So I was somewhat familiar with them, and I know that this is the direction that we're heading, so I wanted to learn a little bit more about that. And proficiency skills, it is just a good way to have teachers and students know what's expected and what they're going to be learning. They're critical for success at the grade level, standardized tests, and then the next level of learning. So one difference is that proficiency scales are not rubrics. They measure skill and kind of the progression. So I have some examples on the next slide, but they are part of the curriculum. And then rubrics measure just one skill, kind of assessing the student with that piece. So what that would look like for teachers versus students is this would be a document for teachers. It tells what's expected. If the student's at a 1, they're not there yet. If they're at a 3, that's the target. And then if they are above and beyond. And then, for example, this would be a student version so that they can understand and even self-assess where they're at. And then how do we get from standards to scales? That's kind of where Rachel's at right now, with just the standards work in math, reading, social studies, aligning those standards, creating priority standards, and then going to the next level.
The fun stuff. So then it comes to tying it all together. And I will tell you that I had this slide all created and then I deleted everything because I realized I had too much information on the slide and I was trying to say too much. So, when I started looking at this and I started looking at thinking about all of the stuff we learned, the very first thing that we started hearing from Dr. Phil Warwick, not the bald Dr. Phil, was he started talking about the entire process of HRS came from high reliable organizations. Places like St. Jude and the Coast Guard Search and Rescue and the Mayo. And he started talking about all of the things that these different organizations have in common. They are service oriented. They work on, helping people. And it's always a positive that goes along with these organizations. And they have this public persona that goes with their brand of this is what we do. We help people. And they're always looking to improve. And so that was one of our first messages was, what is your public persona? Because the field of education really does the same thing. Our job is to help kids. Our job is to make sure that they are getting the most out of their education when they come here. And not just their learning, but a lot of the things that have now fallen onto the plate of educators has nothing to do with just, can you read, can you write, can you do math? There's so much more involved in that, and we are taking care of kids. So then you can see that Mr. Langseth and I got to visit with the man himself, Dr. Bob Marzano. If I could sit for 5 minutes in his brain, oh my gracious. And he kept reminding us that HRS is that systems process. And that the whole thing is organized for you to make sure that you are that high reliable organization, that you are always improving, that the system is in place for you to use, but you're also streamlining it to make sure it works for your district, because every district is different. He did tell us that 30% of all schools do not get certified because it's too hard and they quit. So I was kinda like, yeah. We've already gotten certified twice and we're working on the third one, so that was kind of a proud moment as we start talking about our leading indicators and our lagging indicators that are proving that we have those systems in place. The other thing that I got to do is I got to go to a Journeys lunch. I know this is really hard to see, but it was a very fancy lunch, not McDonald's, that I was invited to, and it was a big table of 8 people from different schools all across the United States. And there was a host facilitator at each table, and then everybody else got to ask you questions. So basically, you were Yoda, and everybody else got to ask you all of these questions about your HRS journey. And that's what made me think about the fact that small schools and large schools follow the same process when we're talking about HRS. Our journey through HRS is the same as somebody else who's got 27 schools in their district. And their questions, I could answer them because the process is the same. So even though we're small, even though we just have one elementary and one high school and we're tied in one building, their questions were the same questions that we have had at some point in time. And the how do you are still questions that we can answer because they're still going through the same work as we're going through. And so that was actually pretty fun. And then, like Vetch talked about culture, Mario Acosta is the one who talks about culture the most when we go to the summit. And he had this little display up there talking about our sentinels are the people who are keeping the fire warm. They're our guardians. They're the ones who are the protectors of this is the way it's always been. Our scouts are our people who are, let's go out and change it. Let's go find something different. Let's try this. And our sprouts are the ones who the scouts say, come on, come with me. Come with me. It's going to be okay. It's going to be okay. And the goal is to get that light shining brighter so that we can make change as we are trying different things. And one of the other things that Dr. Phil says is, you can lead, you can follow, but you can't block. And that's one of the things that has stuck with me for a very long time. Because we can be guardians of the things that have happened in our district in the past, because that is important, and we want to protect and make sure that people aren't going to get hurt if we try to move too fast. But we can't be so stuck sitting around that fire that we don't see the things that need to change. This work is important. And Tina Bogren, who is the one who finishes off all of our sessions, if you don't know this, I'm trying to get my mouse over here because I created this doc for you and I printed it and I left it sitting on my desk. So I'm going to show it to you. All of these guys probably know exactly where theirs is. It's called Stand Up for an Educator. And Tina makes me cry every dang year. Vetch is raising his hand over there because she made him cry too. So for the last session, Tina talks about educator wellness and how important it is for us as educators to take care of ourselves, because a dysregulated adult cannot regulate a dysregulated child. And so if we're not taking care of ourselves, then we can't take care of our kids. It's easier said than done, especially when we're talking about that roller coaster. And if we're at the bottom of that roller coaster, it's really hard to actually take care of ourselves. So for this little thing, what she did is she said, okay, you guys all have this piece of paper in front of you. Do not put your name on it. Do not put your name on it. And I want you to look at this document, and I want you to fill it out. Don't worry, I'll make it bigger. And so what she said is, well, somehow I made 2 of them. She said, I want you to take a look at this. I don't want to split my screen anymore.
I think you.
Help me. Okay, she said, so you're going to look at this, and you're going to read through this. And for every single thing that you agree with, I want you to put a check mark next to that item that you agree with. So go to, otherwise,
You just hit, instead of the maximize.
so it's over
you
here,
hit
you have to
split.
look at it on the other side. She said, so for everything that you agree with, and I can't even click on it. Oh, there we go. Here it is. I don't know why it did this.
She split her screen, but I'm not seeing what her, like, split screen.
Well, in split screen, I can normally go up here
Right, there's like the little thing. It's
and
this.
hover.
It's right there. Click on it.
Try clicking on that. What? It won't even let me click on it. Hold on, I'm gonna get out of this for a second. I'm frozen, you guys. Okay, so she said, I want you to click on the things that you agree with and then fold it. I can't do anything, it's frozen.
It's already folded.
So, if I unplug it and replug it in. So we read through them and everybody started checking. First one, I worry about my students and staff in the evening and on the weekends. Second one, I say yes when I should say no. I know I need to move my body more. I'm doing invisible labor that no one sees but others benefit from. I'm absorbing emotions all day that do not belong to me. I'm tired in a way that sleep alone won't fix. I question whether I'm good enough. I worry about my safety at school. My whole thing is frozen. There's more. So you've checked the boxes, then you folded it. And then she said, okay, I'm gonna turn on the timer for 2 minutes. And I want you to start passing your piece of paper. There were 1,500 people there. And so we started passing. And she said, stop, go back to your seats. So we did. And she said, all right, do you know where yours is? Do you know where your document is? No, no clue where my document is. And she said, okay, I want you to sit down and open the document in front of you. And if I read one of these and the box is checked or the line is checked, please stand up. Or raise your hand if you can't stand up. And then I want you to look around. So she started going through those items one more time again. And she started reading them one at a time. And she said, okay, so she read the first one. And then you looked around. And what did you see?
90% of the room stood up on almost every single question.
Every single question. 1,500 educators. Almost every single one. 90% or more of the people in that room were standing. Here's Rachel. Okay? Because that's the weight that we are carrying. Is that, yeah, I'm thinking about my students and my staff. And yes, I am emotionally vested and I'm worried about these people when I go home. So then she said, okay, put that aside. And she did the rest of her talk, things like drink the stupid water because it makes you feel better even though you don't want to drink the stupid water. So if you hear me saying drink the stupid water, that's why. And then she said, now I want you to open that piece of paper back up. And on the back, I want you to write a message to an educator in this room. Well, for the love, where's the dang Kleenex? Because now I'm crying again. So I'm writing my message. And then she put on a timer for another 2 minutes. And you walked and you passed. And then you got one back. Yep.
It was spot on.
And I was bawling
And
again.
that's where I lost it, so, you know, cause mine wasn't, it was like your message that you got from a total stranger from a total different school district. And it was amazing, cause it was spot on for me, and I'm like, oh, there's no way. I felt like I was at a magic show for a minute, you know what I mean? It's like, but it was, that message to me was amazing. I still have it at my desk, in my little blue notebook that I got from Marcel, so.
So, I am thankful that I get this experience, that I get to take a new group with me every year. We have had, I think I counted 8 teachers from the elementary and 9 teachers from the high school so far who have been able to take this journey. And to me, it's such an amazing trip to be able to take our teachers on, because every single one of them comes back inspired and motivated. And it just moves our HRS journey even further. So, thank you very much. And if you have any questions, we are more than happy to answer any of your questions.
Thank you guys for coming in and sharing.
Thank you.
And going.
Thank you, guys.
We look forward to the presentation every year, because we can see the excitement. And,
It's awesome.
Yeah.
It's awesome. And hey, maybe one of you needs to come with us next year.
Ba-da-ba-ba-ba.
You'll know exactly what they
You wanna fit right in.
Thank you.
Thanks, everybody.
good timing.
And 3 alumni.
Stream when you're done.
Yep.
All right, moving on to have a discussion with the garden shed. I know John had reached out to Neil. What did you come up with, John?
Sorry.
Oh, I just reached out to Neil just as we're entering fourth quarter to see if his industrial tech classes would have the ability to build the shed. I didn't know if they already had some projects started and stuff, and he said, no, this is a perfect timing. They're wrapping up a fish house that they're building that's gonna be done here, and so he just said that they would be able to take the project on if so desired.
I'm following this garden project a little bit closer than more other projects to make sure that it is a truly community garden and not anything else other than that. But giving the children an opportunity, to the students, I shouldn't say children, students the opportunity to do something I think is more beneficial than hiring it out. Gives them a chance to. We'd had discussions this morning about different classes and things like that. You can do drafting and you can do planning and you can do, you know, so you can tie not just building, but, you know, how to put a bid together, how to do many things that can do that. So I look forward to that, and I will send an email out to Joel and the gentleman that was here and keep everybody informed. So hopefully we have a plan by the 19th, or yeah, no, the 6th of whatever it is, the April, so we can give them the blessing to get going. I don't wanna dog their feet on this one, so.
Yeah, he just said that if they're gonna have the students do it, the sooner that they can take a look at the blueprints that they would like to have, and then they can, you know, figure out costs and get everything, but, yeah, they can do it.
Any questions on that? Moving on to the graduation ceremony. You know, the class was here. I just wanted to put this on the agenda. I don't know if anybody's mind has changed. It was good to hear from the students, and my mind has not changed. And I'll give you my reason why, and I hope everybody chimes in if they're for or against. I have yet to see anything that shows me that graduation would be better or more impactful if it was outside. I see a lot of things that could go wrong. Wind, how far the graduates are gonna actually be from, you know, how we set up, are we in front of them, behind them, the chairs, nothing can be set on the track. and then the tear down. I know that there's a lot of people that say that they will help. I've been on a few committees that say they will help, and when it comes down to it, nobody shows up. So it's few doing the masses, and I don't see it. So I mean, I will abstain from the conversation and go with the board, but I just don't see it. There's too many variables for us to move forward with an outside graduation.
And once that ceremony's gone, aren't a lot of the kids, they're, geared up to visit and pictures and all that stuff, and then doesn't Grad Blast start pretty close out right after that too?
So, we mulled a few things over of maybe hiring some juniors to be part of the staff to help, because everything has to be hauled. You can't put carts out there, you can't push chairs out there, you can't stack chairs out there. So for instance, just to do chairs, you have to haul the chairs over, put it on the truck. I think you can get 50 chairs on the truck. The truck goes up, you have to have somebody up there to unload the truck, because then the truck has to come back to fill up the chairs. So again, it's not just, okay, we're just gonna stack the chairs on the track. No, you can't do that, because again, you can't be on the track. And you talk about people, I'll use hers that have the candle around the fire. We've built good to have good assets on some of the, walking across the track, even high heels on the track. There's so many variables that could wreck some things that we have just done. So anyway, I hope that answered your question.
What, I don't know, I guess, sorry, Chris, I disagree. I think if we can make it work, we should. I think it's really important to the kids. And I think maybe we don't see how it's going to make it any better, but obviously they do, and it's very important to them, since they've come to us a few times now. And just from what I've heard from Jim Lure, sounds like he doesn't see big obstacles to it, and I think he'd be kind of one of the main ones to have to make it work. So I think if it can be done, we should give it a shot. And it shouldn't be, this is how it's going to be from now on. If we try, if we did it this year and it didn't go well, okay, we've tried it, it didn't work, we're not doing it again. But that's just my 2 cents.
I would agree with you. Until we try it, we don't know. So, I mean, we can say it maybe didn't go well before, or it might not go well, but until we try it it seems like I would ask why it's so important to do it out there. I don't know. I don't have an answer for that question. If anybody does, I would love to hear it. But it is something that the students seem to want, and if we're listening to who we are serving, kind of, then we should. Maybe it's an opportunity to try it. And if it doesn't go well, then it wouldn't happen again.
There would definitely have to be a wind factor in they said 30%, rain. But there has to be a wind factor in that formula also, in my mind, for there even to be, because the wind could totally mess that whole thing up.
What about temperature? What's the
That's what I'm
ambient?
saying. There's got to be, okay, let's put it
Criteria.
differently. There's got to be more criteria than just whether it's going to rain.
Yeah, I think so.
And I would think other schools have things like that. There's lots of schools that do it.
Well, my daughter's was outside, that was in '99, but I don't remember, any downfalls or upsides or.
So I'm gonna talk about both sides. When we graduated a while ago, we had it outside. Now, it was okay, but I also was on the other side of it at that time because I worked for the school and I know what it took to put into getting that ready. And it wasn't just a simple thing to get it ready and then take it down. And that was when we had a OK track where you could do certain things by laying plywood on it or something like that. And now the track is different, obviously, but there's a lot of work that goes into it. Obviously, logistics, you have weather, you have the equipment out there, you have seating, which is a big one. Can we truly fit as many out there? We can fit more in the gym right now than we can out in the bleachers. Chair-wise, you got to think about this year the staff will be sitting as well. if they choose to show up. So that's a lot of staff members that we gotta set chairs up for, not only the students, but the staff. There's just a lot that goes into it. Obviously, the speakers, you know, people can say, well, I can hear it from my house when there's a football game going on, but when you're actually announcing and you're down on the field, if they're not turned right, again, the wind, there's, I'm gonna say no. Just, there's a lot of reasons, and if they can even get the amount of people to help set up, a lot of those people possibly could be, you know, leaving with their students or setting up for grad blast. There's a lot of things going on, so it's tough. I would like to believe that you would get a ton of help, but it's tough. That's my 2 cents.
I don't like these kind of decisions. It's so hard because I can see both. I can
Right.
see both.
Yeah.
I also think if our kids are going to these lengths to convince us or to talk about it, that we should entertain the thought. I think we haven't formulated a plan. There's not a plan. So at this point, I feel like that's number one, is if we move forward, obviously we're in a time crunch, so we need to figure, like, there needs to be some major things figured out. And are we just saying no because we've said no and that's where it's been? I don't know. I also don't want to set a precedent either that every following graduation this will be the expectation, because what if that falls apart?
Who would be, so if we said, if it did say, yep, who is it Jim that's the one that's got to make it work, or who is the one that's got to make, in the end, be the one that needs to either come up with the plan or carry the plan through?
Jim's would be a big part of it, because Jim has to not only figure out the outside logistics, but the inside. So let's say the weather does go bad, we gotta be able to set this up and get it ready in the gym very fast. You know, and we talked about 3 to 4 days before checking the weather, however, and that could change. Obviously, you go from 3 to 6 inches to 1 inch the other day, that could change very fast on the weather too. So it's coming from that side of it, which is the side I was referring to, it's hard because you could set it up and then you gotta have a backup. So if it does go,
I also would hate for one person to take the fall for something to go horribly
Sure.
wrong. I don't think that would be fair at
Right.
all.
well, and when you consider the choir setup, the band setup, all they're carrying their instruments, all that stuff's
Yeah.
gotta end up out there somehow. You got the bathroom thing, you got, which obviously we have new and improved bathrooms out there, but all that stuff comes into play.
One of the things that, you know, and guys, these are just talking points. I'm not, listen, this is a group, I feel comfortable. There's no show that will be set up for the choir. So when the choir sings, it just goes everywhere. The behavior of adults and students up and down the bleachers, clunk, 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 or are we behind the stands playing football, or, you know, are we gonna be policing those areas? These are all things that I've been thinking about as, parking. That football field is going to be quarantined off. We will not be driving on that football field because a chair is bad enough. A car on the practice football field is going to be, so now we're gonna have to hustle. You know, they said parking isn't gonna be bad, but when we have it in the gym, you have parking out front and you have parking out in the back. So now we're gonna have people that have to walk from.
On pavement. On pavement.
Yep.
We're parking.
Yep.
We're there.
Yep, so now we have people walking from the front of the school to facilitate, the kids are gonna walk, they wanna plan to walk from the ECFE wing to there. That seems like a long drawn out process. Again, I hear complaints of, this is too long, this takes too long. All of the things that, and is it the whole student's body? Or is it a select few? Because I've gotten some calls from the people like, why are you even entertaining it? And then they list off all the things that they see wrong with having it outside. And I said, well, we're a board and, you know, we take everything into advisement on what's going on and logistically wise. You know, I think that people know that, you know, the reason why I think of it is you can't hear, you can't, and why did we move it from outside to inside? Was it just 1 year because it rained and it was easier? Again, I don't feel like we're going to get, there's enough seating out there for what we actually have. With the, we can sit there and see that whole bleacher thing is full. And then all 400 chairs that are on the floor are full. That's more than 1,100 people. Then now you have the band that you have to put over there. So then there's more. Again, these are just things that go through my head and I'm like, wow, this is a lot. And then depending on how you have the stage set up, you got the kids in the middle of the football field going up and down, or do you put the staff way on the other side where the podium is, and then so that the people that are sitting in the bleachers can take pictures of, well, now everybody that's out here can't hear or can't entertain anything's going. We can't in the gym, we can't hear what's going on. You're going to move us outside, and we're going to be able to hear. That's again, that's the tough thing. Is like, well, you can hear from the speakers, but when we're sitting right behind that speaker, it's very, I don't know, maybe it's just me. It's very tough to hear because we're not on the front side. So that's why I said this year I want to make sure that we have speakers back farther, so we can actually hear what's going on and participate.
Honestly, I've never heard you say one word when you've been
Perfect.
speaking. No, it is hard to hear. It is hard
And
to
so,
hear. That's
again,
and then you got to do all this within a 2-day period of time.
Well, sorry.
I mean, if it was a Wednesday to it's a short amount of time that all this stuff has to be figured. I mean, you have the.
And the other thing is that, and the last little, we have track and field for all different grades and all different ages the last 2 or 3 days of school. What do we do with that? How do we, because you can't, you're not, it's like a gym, you can just shut one down and move them to the other ones. You shut track and field down, you shut the whole track and field down for everybody because you have to have somewhat of a semblance, because you're not gonna just turn this around and, graduation's at 6, you're not going to, so there's planning on that part too. So, again, it's, so we stop teaching earlier in the week so we can have track and field on Monday and Tuesday. Well, what if it rains? You're planning around all that, then the kids, I think you're gonna have more parents upset if you don't have track and field than if you have graduation outside.
I guess the two things that I'm a little concerned with by having it outside versus inside is I have a lot of family coming in for graduation, and I know space is limited and each family's allowed X amount of chairs, but then the rest of the family has to go to the bleachers if I'm not.
Yep.
And if you do have some handicapped individuals that will be joining your family, they have a little bit more of a hardship to get in there. Not saying there isn't seating for it, but it's a little harder. But that's just my opinion.
And that's, I'm gonna ask to bring it to a vote at the meeting, and like I said, this is just discussion.
Yeah.
I mean, how this is, I'm ecstatic with this board because I think we all can have that discussion, and there's no hard feelings
like
when
you can.
when you walk out the door. It's just, this is one that bothers me, because I sit and I think about it all the time, and I think about all the time that I've thought about graduation all the time, because I do. We ask the kids to come in, we ask the things to go on, but
Super
they're.
cool that they did, and
Yep.
their presentation was wonderful.
Yep.
Yeah, it was.
You sit down there and you draw a line on a piece of paper and you say the pros and the cons. This line for me is a lot longer than this line right here, and
I'm a little surprised at how easily Jim said it was very doable. I don't know if there wasn't a lot of, I mean, I know he's done it before in other places, and maybe he doesn't think it's a big deal. I was a little bit surprised by that.
I had forgotten about the track days, and I wondered if he was aware of that as well.
Well, what time, I mean, those, track and field isn't typically that Friday. So with that, I mean, for setting up, I don't know how far in advance we're going to be putting chairs out and stuff on the actual track. But typically that's not that very last day of school. John, you could speak to that better.
Well, I don't know if this helps or hinders your conversation at all, but we had a directors meeting today, and I brought up some things that I needed to know about for outside graduation. One is streaming. We do get a lot of people that watch the graduation online for a variety of reasons. They, grandma and grandpa are in Arizona or someplace, and streaming is not an issue. We have full streaming capabilities out there, but I asked, what is the streaming quality? What is it gonna look like out there? Because you're a lot closer in the gymnasium than you are on the football
Yeah.
field. And they said it's gonna be small, you know, depending on, you know, how they're able to zoom in, will depend, because it is a lot further away. I asked about sound. Speaker quality and stuff should be good. It all depends again on wind and all the other variables out there, but we do have new sound out there. All of that is gonna have to be set up that day, because none of the wires, mics, and streaming stuff can be set up ahead of time. I asked them about seating, because we have the bleachers, and that is what we will be kind of confined to, because the chairs will be used for the staff, the students, the band, the choir down on the field. They felt like they could possibly put some on the track, but then we're hauling out the plywood that we have stored in the garage to lay down on the track, and so that just adds a little bit more to it. Parking was an issue because we have the sprinkler system on the practice field, and oftentimes people will see, hey, that's just a field, we can park on it. We park in fields all the time. We do have a sprinkler system that runs out there, so that will have to be roped off and be held to, because we don't want any damage down out there. Talked about, you know, maybe we hire some sophomores and juniors that would be able to be paid to help us set up and take down, and so there's some possibilities there.
It might
So
be
I
a
think
great
with-
opportunity to pull in community groups as well.
Well, community groups,
Possibly.
sometimes it's that paid part.
Right.
Because if you're looking
Yes.
for
Yep, I
community
get
group
that.
volunteers,
Yeah.
you're still
I get that.
working with volunteers that maybe they're there, maybe they're not. So I think, just speaking for Jim, what I think people are, when they ask him, is it possible? Anything is possible. But when we do comparisons of other schools, our staff is much smaller than Brainerd or Pequot. I mean, their buildings and grounds crew, Brainerd is gonna be 100 times larger than ours. Pequot's probably gonna be 3 to 4 times larger than ours. The chairs and stuff going out there, setting up for band, setting up choirs, is also gonna be that day. You know, there isn't gonna be setting up ahead of time with it. Again, can we do it? Yes, we can do it, but there's another part to being able to do it. Our bleachers out there are metal. As Chris said, you know, are people gonna stay seated and be respectful, because that's gonna disrupt a lot of the sound that you're gonna hear, people going up and down the metal. Wood bleachers aren't a whole lot different, but the sound and what it picks up is different. The population that, in my mind, I'm around, maybe it's because I'm a grandparent now as well, that sometimes grandparents getting up and down bleachers isn't always easy to do. And that's where they're gonna be sitting, is in bleachers.
So everybody would be sitting in bleachers?
Everybody.
There's not gonna be any, okay.
Yep, unless we put some down on the track. And then
Okay.
we're putting boards down on the
Okay.
track and people walking down to the track, and, so again, just speaking for Jim, when people ask him, can we do it? We can. We can. I won't tell you that we can't.
Right.
But there's gonna be a lot of work
Lot of
that
work
goes
to it,
into it.
yeah.
Do we say no to it because of a lot of the work? I won't answer.
I think it's more than the work, though, too. It sounds like it's maybe comfort and having enough of what we need out there. I mean, it's gonna be different. Things might not rise to the same level that we have in the gym.
The quality.
The quality, yeah, I guess, the quality.
It's ceremonial.
It's what, ceremonial?
Well, I mean, a graduation is ceremonial in nature, and
Yep.
so you know, you wanna be able to get close to take the pictures.
Yep.
Parents are gonna be a lot further from the stage,
Yeah.
outside, you know, for that picture taking.
So for
But-
those of you who experienced it, how did it go? Or don't you remember? Was it that long ago?
Been about 30 years for me.
You know what, I've been to 3 college graduations in the last 2 years, and, you know, I went to Bemidji, all my nieces and nephews, those were inside. Again, even when you're in those auditoriums, it's far away, you don't feel like you're part of
Yep.
it. I like the part of feeling the part of what's going on, I don't think you're gonna have it. Again, my biggest, you know, the hearing and the vision and all the things that go on, you know, the mom and dad running up to take a picture when the graduate comes across.
Yeah.
There'll be none of that. And so again, as you look at that, is it a big thing? Maybe it's not that big a deal, but it's just things that I think about for the staff and the things that go on, so.
I guess from what I can remember, which isn't much other than when the weather changed, the sun started to go down and it got a little cooler and everyone dressed for warm, you know, so they're in shorts and a lot of the students were a little colder. Wind played a factor. Of course, we didn't have the sound system that we had now. It was more or less a speaker on the table back then, but and the board was set up at a table just on the grass, and the students were in chairs facing the bleachers like they would now. But bugs, of course, they didn't spray like they do now, but bugs were a factor then.
Sure.
Because all it takes is one mosquito to fly around the mic and you got that sound.
Or the scary part is you're an hour to start time and you're 2 hours to finish and set up.
Yeah.
You know, can that get the timing on that?
Yeah, that's what I can kind of remember.
I don't know, I'm right.
There was good things too. I mean, we did pictures after graduation. It wasn't, parents didn't come, like they were saying, you can't really take pictures and get close. So afterwards, you would take pictures of your students after, you know, then everyone was allowed on the track or the field to take pictures, is how we did it.
Tough one.
It is.
It's really a
It
tough
is,
one.
and it's really tough for me, cause I have one
I bet it
graduating
is.
this year,
Right,
so,
right.
and I hear all about it.
Right? You could go back to COVID. They could graduate
No.
from the car. Come on.
Oh, goodness.
But I did like the parade. I mean, I thought
I
the
did
parade
too.
was, I think that, you know, and I think that, you know, as we get closer, you know, we talk about spending money. I think it's important, and I don't know where we find the money, but I think it's important that we celebrate the graduates and having those, you know, where we run for school board and we have those signs with the kid's picture on it and, you know, it comes up and, you know, there was a little bit of vandalism, but not too much, but it's really important, you know, there's a lot of them, you drive around the area and they have it in, you know, this is a senior and it's at the end of their mailbox. But can we have that for the graduates for, you know, as they come into school or the last week of school? You know, that was fun, and then the parade, I think, was, you know, great. But I just think it was great. So it'll be on the agenda, you know, like I said, if you're not in groups of 3 or more, please don't discuss it amongst, but if you have, you know, other questions or thoughts, like I said, I just think about it all the time, and, you know, I wanna do it for them, but just realistically, I haven't found that one that's, I haven't found that aha moment, so, just know it's coming up for a vote on the April meeting.
And the way the students will hear about it will be after the vote.
After the vote, I will send a note out to the students that were here and say, we have decided to move forward or not.
And the thing that's interesting about that is that we have to look at that as in groups of people, in groups of the grandma and grandpas are
Yep.
coming, the kids are coming, the parents are here, the kids that were here, but also all these groups, what is the best for all of them?
The culture,
That's
we just
what-
heard about it.
That's what we gotta, that's what we can't miss.
And I think we're gonna discuss some of this when we
Exactly.
talk about the books and our questions, you know, just some of the notes that I have, we've got the older, the slower, the younger, the smarter, the motivated, and how do we facilitate all those groups? How do we, you know, when we talk about, and we're gonna talk about culture change, and we're gonna talk about, it's not always easy. It's not the easiest, and I'm not saying, I'm not for it because it's hard. There's so many other different variables that are in there, so. like I said, good questions, good conversation, and thank you for voicing your opinions, because, again, I haven't found that aha moment yet, but maybe it's coming.
Well, more like when the sun's going down, you know, when it gets cooler, we would just probably have to ask those people that have to speak at graduation to keep it shorter.
I'll just turn the fan off.
They're gonna say the sound.
And you guys can give me all the stress that you want, it's never
Stress
been
for
more
the
than
weather.
4.5 minutes, so.
No, you've done good, but it is hard to hear though.
Yeah, but, and you can't, and that's, well, anyway,
Yep, anyway.
I'm not gonna be
Well, we're
there.
done with that.
I'm going to, say 5-minute break. I need to get up and stretch my legs and use the bathroom, so let's take a 5-minute break, and we're not like doing whatever, so mull around or do whatever. I have to use the bathroom.
Gotcha.
I had lots of coffee and lots of Diet Mountain Dew.
Are we still live streaming?
Oh, yeah, we're still
Okay.
live streaming.
Okay.
It's nice having these padded chairs, but even these padded chairs after an hour and a half sitting in them.
Yeah.
Even with all the padding that I brought with me.
Better at this meeting if I could stand up.
Yeah.
Are we still streaming or not streaming?
Yeah, we are.
Yeah. Indeed.
Sorry, left coughing, ate your coffee.
You okay, John?
I think I cough 24/7 year round.
Oh,
It just,
that's no good.
You need one of Dave's special ones?
I gotta hold
I
them
got,
now.
I got a couple.
I was gonna say, I haven't,
They're in my
you
pockets.
haven't had to
nice
throw
and
them
warm.
out yet, for a long time, actually.
So, this is another one, very far and open, and as far as, I thought it was a good read, you know, it was an easier read, but I think, you know, as we're gonna talk about this, to me, this conversation could be a 4 or 5 hour conversation of what's going on.
Well, let's
and the
not do
things-
that.
the
Let's
things
start
that-
out with that.
So, as we put some questions together, you know, we highlighted a few of them that are inside of those. So the yellow questions that we highlighted, you know, it was, I'll just kick it off. It was, you know, even sitting around the table, I could see the no-nos, you know, listen to the no-nos. I can hear the people that are, I can see the Alice's at the table. I can see, you know, everybody here has a picture of, you know, my personal of what each board member is, and everybody has that individuality, and that's why I love. I mean, you guys all bring so much to the table, and as we go through this, and you think about, you know, yes, it was kind of cute and quirky because it was penguins, but there's a lot of great things that they talk about, you know, and when they, you know, they talk about using how many birds is it going to take to poke a hole in the penguin, and you think about, well, is the work being productive that we're going to do, or yes, we could get there, but it's going to take too long. A lot of times that we look at problems around our district, and our problems are very small. If you've been watching and reading the paper and listening to other districts board meetings and things like that, you know, you look at a couple of things that just up in like Adaboro, you know, they got 1.7 million to cut just to be just to be flat. No balance. That's just to be flat. And I think that we do, you know, a great job as, you know, the scouts that went out to look for the new one, and you have the people that they're pulling alongside. I think a lot of times our comfort level gets to be sitting around the campfire. Well, we did it before, you know, and again, you know, we talk about graduation outside. We talk about bringing, you know, some of the nostalgic back that, you know, that we had. There was a reason why we left that. And I think the research needs to sometimes go into why did it, or what was it? Just because it rained one year, we moved it inside and found out it was better. I graduated in '92. Ryan graduated in '99. We were inside, they were outside. So I don't know how that aspect works. But as we do this, instead of sitting back with your arms crossed, I think this board is more sitting on the edge of their seats, engaged, leaning forward, asking why, how are we going to do this? We're going to do this work on this strategic plan. We're going to take the time. It's going to take a village to do it. And I think that, you know, as we go through this, I'll speak more about it, but you break it down in percentages of the things that go on. And you can get the no-nos that can creep up faster than, you know, you got vote no committees. Those can creep up faster than you can in a lot. We saw that in surrounding districts. So we want to make sure that everybody's informed. So with that being said, and I asked John to ask some pointed questions too, during this, in case we're falling off the course or whatever, but things that he said, because a lot of times that we always hear sunglasses and autographs, and there's not. There's hard conversations that need to, like I think you said, this is tough, because we don't know, and we wanna listen, and we wanna be, but we're not always right, or we tried it and it's not working, so.
I think you can look at that group that was here today, and we've gotten a different group to go each time, and we spend money to do that. But we keep expanding that, and there's more and more people go, and it isn't this one little core of 4 people that go every time, and they're trying to shove something down everybody else's throat. Because you do that, and then nobody is engaged, and nobody's in. It's just, they're gonna make us do this decision. It's not a decision that we're all making. And then when she's talking about, when Madame's talking about mentoring, that's another point right here of not letting that iceberg melt, to pass that on. And she's now, because she's later in her career, she's seeing more and more of that. Plus her daughter wants to do that. My daughter started teaching, she had my wife behind her, and that was huge. That was something that she could bounce stuff off all the time. All these new teachers need that, because not all of them are hanging out, because this is a tough job.
And that's a good point. And I think like with, you know, it can't just be one person doing it. And just like with the Penguins, it can't just be one leader trying to get everybody. They had to bring in others, and the young, the old, they all had to get on board. And that's the same with a school. You can't just maybe have one person trying to make it better. And that brings in what Vetch said about culture. You have to get the whole, it's a culture of everybody and what everybody's trying to do and believe in and bring up. And so when they were talking, I thought, oh gosh, that really ties back to what we read in this book, just with getting everybody involved, and everybody has their part to do to make change and make it succeed.
And I think that as we read question number 1, what iceberg might be melting in public education today, they hit on a lot of good things, you know, the weight that they carry, the things that go on in the classroom, worrying about the students, worrying about that is, and as you see the pool, 1 out of every 8 teachers goes unfilled. I think we have we do a great job of putting a positive area of performance here for our staff. I think that they should feel loved and accepted and I think we pay a decent wage. I think that's part of our strategic plan that we put on there, but we also follow it. We want to keep and retain good staff, but also we want to make sure they're in the right spots for the staff. Not is really, you know, are we having them in the right areas of, and every year we look at, you know, reductions or how to move them. They might not, the culture in our building sometimes seems to be very difficult to change. But I think that, you know, as we look, and as the Penguins looked, it's not right now that we have to worry about. And it's coming quick. It's 2 to 3 years if we're not set up in the right areas of, we could be a Park Rapids or we could be a Native, where it's not, and I'm sorry, I shouldn't use Native. We should be other districts that have, you know, and there's also opportunities where as you go through this, you don't know the unknown. You know, what is going on to go on with the go on down at the Capitol. We don't know the funding that's there, so it's good to have a little bit in our coffers as well. So
that whole point of that lady asking all those questions and then everybody getting them a different one, coming back and they're all virtually the same. Then to say something and send it all around everybody and everybody getting about the same rah-rah or is the fact of you're not alone. We all got to remind each other we're not alone. That's huge. Because if you feel like you're the only one that's having that roller coaster, then there's a problem. If everybody's having a roller coaster because it's the time of year or whatever that case may be, whether it's staff, whether it's Jonathan, whatever it is that we all hit that maybe in a little different time. But the biggest point of that whole thing that she just said was you're not alone. We all do it.
And then how do we support that? How do we support our teachers so that we don't lose good staff, you know? Because I think that could happen too. If they don't have the resources they need or they don't have a mentor, whatever it would be. And I was really impressed by listening to them all talk, because it seems like they really got a lot out of going to that HRS.
Yep. I said that we've gone 7 years, because I know they went the year before
Yep.
I got here, but I believe there was a pause. They didn't have it during COVID.
Oh, sure, sure.
So maybe it was 6. I was very proud of this group presenting, and I didn't know what they were going to be presenting on beforehand. You know, even having been part of one of the groups coming back, I think they came back with a little bit deeper information, or shared. I think they all probably have got that, but they shared a little bit deeper information than maybe what we've gotten in
the
past years.
I agree.
Do
Yeah.
you think
I
as
agree.
this is going, that as each group goes, they're a little more maybe informed as what to look for when they get there? So that could kind of help that
A
dig
little
deeper?
bit, because we are definitely able to share with them the type of experience they're going to have. And I shouldn't have said we, because I don't think it's Rachel or myself or the admin that's telling them about. It's their colleagues that are telling them the type of experience that they're about to enter, and that you really can't quite prepare for it, because when you say your head's spinning, it will. With that, but yeah, very, very proud of this group that presented. Would like to ask you, like, what are those, what's causing maybe PRB's iceberg to melt a little bit more specific here? What are those challenges not that we have to abandon or be scared of, but what are those things that we need to prepare for so we're not responding to them in a crisis situation, but we're planning for them as far as things slowly melt, slowly change. What is it that we need to prepare ourselves for here that you see? Because I know the first time I read this book, I started having all kinds of things just popping in my head about that I would have to stop reading and think about it and process it a little bit, and then go back and read a little bit because so many things pop in.
I think Leslie brought up the one about the teacher burnout, teacher retention would be a big one that comes to mind.
One, it would be nice to, you guys had talked about mentorship / we'll call it onboarding, having the people that are, and I'll use the term champion because that's what we use at work, that train or review these items with the new employees. When's the last time that list was looked at? I mean, is it something we could see what's getting achieved on this list, and is it something that we're just showing them the great things, but here's also some things that you might run into that are a little iffy, so you can share that with them as well. Obviously, new teachers are panicking when they start, and they want to have both of those in their toolbox to go with as far as
Well, it's interesting because sometimes the new teacher's not panicking because their energy, they want to prove everything that they just learned in college and be ready to. Sometimes that mentorship is kind of teaching them a little bit. The reality of it is that you're going to go in there with all kinds of, spit and fire, and then all of a sudden after EM break, then all of a sudden it's like, oh, that long fall reality, and that's where that downhill kind of goes. And it's just kind of letting them know that it happens to everybody. It's okay. That's when you rely on your colleagues and everybody else to kind of help you through with that. One of the things for that mentoring, that first teaching, somehow I'd like us to get into it, and I haven't quite figured out how to do it yet, is I want to make their first experience here, that welcome back to school week, when they get hired, a little bit more eventful, almost as if it's something, not as simple, but giving them a PRB shirt. Giving them something that says welcome to the team, so that when you're here, and that first volleyball game happens, the first football game happens, they have something that says PRB that they can wear there and say, I am now part of this team with it, because I know that sometimes that's a little bit hard to do. And the one thing that this school does very, very well is if you take a look at the number of staff that are sitting in the bleachers for volleyball games, basketball games, football games, they show up, and so it's be nice to be kind of welcomed in, saying, I'm part of this team.
And feel like, yep, I belong here.
Well, I know when I think you were there, Chris and I had attended the meeting where we had coffee with the new teachers, and we played like a bingo, which was kind of neat because you could walk around and interact with them and introduce, talk about some favorite things. You had to fill your card, and that was kind of a nice way to have them come in.
When we talk about what might be happening as our iceberg melts, my concern is that losing kids after that 10th grade year, there's so many things that, we talk about ALC, ALP, we talk about kids that need to work because they have to work because of their family needs and whatever things that, we have online programs, we have so many different things that the students can go do now, that the typical classroom after 10th grade, it looks very different. I've read some things about how we can do, at home, online learning basis. But also, what about that student that needs to go to work at noon every day because that's just the way their family is? I think that one of the things that I feel that we have not done a good job at is looking on the outside, playing outside of the box. And, as you think about it, as you go through this process and you say, well, now I'm done, I'm in the coffin. And you have everybody standing outside. Now who's thinking outside the box, right? Because we have to move on as we do this. everything's dead that you put inside of that box because you sit there and it just goes in there and it just stays. How do we open that box back up and then everybody standing around looks outside that box and says, hey, this is the change that we have. This isn't just dead here now. We might take some of that stuff out of the box and rejuvenate it. Sometimes I feel it goes in there and it just stays and then we never look at it again. Or we've done it before in the past. And we talk about that culture and we talk about the change and the empathy that needs to go with it. Well, this doesn't necessarily have to be dead. Crack it open, let's see what's there, but then have the people standing around be those outside thinkers. And like I said, on mine is, you know, we need to have positivity, empathy, and logic, but we need to make everybody a hero as we go through this. And one of the things that we talked about was the little kindergarten girl that wanted to come up and she talked about how to get the scouts to fish. Then we talked about the kindergarten teacher is like, well, you're not gonna need me. No, we're gonna need you more. Because the things that change, the things we're gonna have to start educating in us, go home and ask your mom and dad why you're saying no. Because this is what I'm seeing. Make them be engaged, make them say, this is what I wanna see, mom and dad. Maybe, okay, maybe I didn't see it that way. And I think we saw a lot of that after we had the building, the bond that went through. That education piece wasn't there, the conversation piece wasn't there. I think we've changed that conversation piece. But again, you gotta have empathy, you gotta have logic, because you know what? We're all not sitting in the greatest situations. You know, there's all these things that go on. And again, she read some of those things off that page. Yes, I can see that. Yes, I can see that. And if they're feeling that way, how do we fix it? And changing your culture, as it says in the book, it's not easy and it's not gonna be a road that's straight and narrow. And when, going back to some of the stuff I talked to the kids when they graduate, you're gonna have rivers and mountains, you gotta climb, you gotta travel, you got snow, and you got all this stuff going on. So as we see this melting that we go through, that is one thing that how do we retain students? How do we give them when they leave? It used to be we're just forcing them off to college. Now they need to be career ready, but they also need to be life ready. And are we doing a good job of doing that? And that's the melting I see.
Can I ask you a question off that? And this is really open to anybody. It kind of goes a little bit what I had said with the teachers and making them part of the team. I think I gave you this book to read. I've given Chris a number of books. Every time he comes in and asks me a question, I hand him a book. Is with those kids after 10th grade, are we doing enough to make a moment for them here? You know what I mean by making a moment? That this is where I want to be because of what I'm able to experience here that I'll never be able to experience anyplace else.
Yep.
Not any other point in my life, because high school's a one-time shot.
And that goes back to culture also.
Right.
Yep.
Yep.
I mean,
And is that for all kids?
Yeah.
Not just after 10th grade?
Right.
Like,
is that a
yeah.
fair thing to, what you'd said
Right.
after 10th grade, and making that moment, and then,
But to follow up with Nikki is, making that moment as we gave cards and we gave acknowledgements and making it a moment that, just in that moment, we appreciated you. Just in that moment of, again, as I go back to the little kindergartner that she says, you made her a hero because she went out and just the little thing of changing one person, celebrating that moment for them. Not necessarily having to be 10th and beyond. I agree with having those moments that you can share. We do the Roar rallies and we do student achievement days and we do those things that I think that, but sometimes you gotta drill down even farther.
Yeah.
We do the work days in the community. I'd love to hear the kids to hear some of the community members that come back and say the great things about how well behaved our students were, how nice it was that they cleaned up the park, how nice it was that they cleaned up the yard, because again, you look at, if everybody remembers in that one, you got 30% can see the way, you got 30% that digest it the first time you come out there, you got 20% that are confused, you got 10% that are skeptical, and 10% that everything that we do is absurd. But if you let those people that are saying this is absurd start creeping into that, pretty soon now you're at 60-40. Again, saying your moment is captured here, having that opportunity to be here and be heard and to be celebrated. I think that is a farther, more empathetic way to say, we want you here. How can we help you be here? We have all this great staff, we have this great buildings and grounds, we have all these great things, but if you don't feel like you belong,
Right.
pretty tough.
And I feel that our teachers have a lot on their shoulders to do that.
Mhm.
And I wonder, in understanding some things, how teachers come prepared to talk to families, to work through things, because sometimes that child in that family might have things that need to be discussed in a way, and it might not be with teacher. I don't know really how to say this, but I think we've had our share of things that have happened with disgruntled families, and how do we handle that the right way? How are our teachers supported in that? If we are, if there's a special thing that we can do to help them, because if I were in that situation, that would be really, really hard, I think. I know, Jonathan, you've been in a few spots, and I just think it's hard stuff, and how can we, not saying that parents need a voice and teachers need to be supported, so how do we bring that together?
Balance it.
Well, that kind of segues perfectly in my next little thing that I'm gonna ask you, because it's a second area that we had highlighted for tonight that can start here with you, that as a board, how do we ensure that we're giving you accurate information even when it's uncomfortable? Are we giving you the information that you need as a board to talk about some things? Look at it as that iceberg, look at it as something that might need to change, so it's not all fluff. It's not all the sunshine and roses, because we do tackle some very serious issues here, some serious things. Do you feel like you get enough of that from me, from the administrative team, from teachers, from parents? Because those are things that are, as a school board's, hard to tackle. Are you getting that from us?
I think that comes down to culture as well. And I think as a board, and Chris, you've said this tonight and other nights, that we have a good board. We can disagree but be respectful, and we just showed that tonight. We can have a good discussion on, and maybe we don't all agree, but we still respect. We try to see other points of view. And so I think as a board, we've done a good job of that, being open to have those conversations. And I think as a board, we've done a great job with each other. I don't know if the public or teachers feel the same, but I think that it really comes down to that culture and just being respectful and open. And yeah, sometimes we have to have uncomfortable conversations, and that's okay. It's okay to disagree. It's okay. We don't all see the same point of view. And just to make that known, like, we don't have to always agree.
And I don't think we can have those conversations unless we have all the information. And I think that's what's hard in these chairs, when you're looked upon to make a decision, and we're at the mercy of people giving us that information. So if we don't have all the information, we make the decision that we can, right?
True.
So I trust that if we ask for the information, we'll get it, but I don't know, I'm not exactly sure if I feel we're getting it right up front.
Well, I think.
Does that make sense?
Yep, it does, because I think sometimes if you are sitting in those chairs and giving the board information, you don't like presenting on bad information, because part of that whole culture
Bad
part.
or negative?
Negative.
Either one.
Bad, negative,
Okay.
unsuccessful, if you're
Gotcha.
No,
bringing.
when you said bad information, I see what you're saying. Is it bad information or
Like
it's
incorrect information?
No, I'm just saying information, test scores. You know what, it's the hardest thing to sit
Yeah.
there and talk about our test scores. Because you get judged on the test
Yeah.
scores, the media judges you on your test scores, public judge, and so sometimes you're feeling like, I don't wanna paint a picture that we don't have hardworking staff, we have hardworking administrators here because our test scores, because they are grinding it out, and I don't want it to make it sound like, hey, our students are underachievers either, because, they're grinding. That's information that's very difficult, But I think that's information that we need to be able to talk about. Why do we think that that maybe happened? Not pointing a finger, but what's getting it in the way? What's melting away at that iceberg of test scores that we're constantly reacting to? That's the type
Yes.
of information
Sure.
I think is where it's
And
uncomfortable.
sometimes, sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you. Sometimes I don't know if I feel like I have the right questions to get at that information as a board member. Even though, like, I feel like I know what's happening, like, and you know what I mean?
Some days I
Right,
don't.
sometimes you don't. And you don't want to assume as a person at this table, like, again, we make our decisions in facts and with the information that is given. I personally am a why person, and as much as it, like, is hard, the more information, the better for me to make a decision. As you've seen, I'm like back and forth all the time. But that's because, like, information helps you decide which direction to go. And if you don't have the information, you're not going to make the best decision. So I would err on the caution of more information.
One of the things that I think that the board does very well is that the information that we get stays within the board, and sometimes you gotta ask those questions, and I think you guys do a really good job of channeling that to the right areas, because some of the information that we get, we can't talk about, it's one of those things. I think one of the things where, I don't think that we get enough information on is, cause I walk and I hear attitudes and I hear language and I hear actions and I go, holy cow. So somebody told me that I should go walk somebody else's halls. So I took the opportunity to walk somebody else's halls and went in and spent some time. Well, there's a problem there too, but we never hear about it in Pine Rebecca's until it's too bad. So what are we doing? How are we addressing buses? Just the overall language and attitudes of students. The things that, again, when you say that, our students are awful. No, they're not. There's a few of them that are, have some, but is it something that they don't know any better, or the things that so when you talk about those things, those are the tough things we need to know about, because we're just not all up here signing autographs like John said. And how, this is the age of information dissemination, right? I want to know more, I want to know why, and I want to know why. And as you sit at this table, there's a lot of times where we can't have that information and then know why, and then be able to tell people, even if we did get that information, what happened. It's tough to say, well, at the end of the day, I can't tell you. I always say, you've asked me you voted for me to be here. I would hope that you would ensure that I've done the best thing that I can for staff, students, and administration, and that collectively as a board, we made the best decision that we could. That's, usually it stops at that. But again, I've got some people that, well, I need to know why. Well, I'm sorry, you can keep asking me that question. And again, as we ask for more information, we have to make sure that, and I've even asked to have a class for us to where we know where we can't and can't say, because as you guys ask for more information, we need to be very careful on what we put back out there to the public. And it's, we can go to different events and different things, and even in the simple fact of, at a basketball game, why didn't this happen, why did this happen? Why did this happen, why did this happen? Well, I don't know, I'm gonna have to gather that information. Okay, and then you do gather the information. Remember, there's two sides to every story, so you gotta take time to get that information from and then what is our expectations as the board that we think that is for Jonathan to take care of those things? As again, he works for us and it's his ship, and his pirates work for underneath him, right? So as we disseminate that information, we need to make sure we're getting it back, right? But we also need to make sure we're being professional on that. So roundabout, I think we're getting enough. I think we want a little bit more, but we'd like to hear, not just dwell on the negative, but some more of the things that might be causing. We can lift some of that weighted blanket off our staff. And are they being heard with, even if it's language or discipline or whatever the case may be, know that they're being heard and say, well, we have to go down this road because of this. At least they feel like they've been being heard.
Is there any type of information you feel like you haven't received yet that you would like to receive at a board meeting or a workshop or something where it's like, I get asked about this all the time out in the public, but I don't have information to answer?
Maybe more just what, we do hear a lot of the positive things, just like we talked about, which is good, but would it be helpful, or are we not communicating maybe to the staff, you know, if you do have challenges, yeah, I don't know,
Keep
like
going.
more.
Keep going down that
just-
road. I like that train of thought because
Like, we can't help if we don't know if there's challenges, and not to say that that's necessarily our position to solve all those challenges, but if there are, and if we all hear it's all sunshine and roses all the time, we can't help. We can't make an improvement if there is actually, and we can't support the teachers and the staff if we don't know about it. So is there a culture that we have that we're presenting that we just want to hear the positive? Like, is there something? I said we work really good as a board, you know, us communicating. Do we need to do a better job of fostering that relationship with teachers or staff or students, families, that, hey, we want to hear the tough stuff, not just always the good stuff.
and how, as you travel down that road, how do you do that without micromanaging?
Yeah,
That's
right.
exactly what I was
And-
thinking,
and
is
that's- and that's-
micromanaging thing.
That's that tough. You got a double line on that road, or do you
Yeah.
got the passing line? And where do you go in? Because the first call that I get from somebody that is, have you talked to that teacher? Yes, 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 yes. Okay, now I'll listen to you, but I'm gonna give you advice on our standards of way of doing things. Oh, you know, but it's still, that's the procedure that we have set up, and I agree with you. I think that as we put that more out there, you wanna be able to fix it right away for them. But I think that as we go through this process, we can't fix it for you. I could put you, well, it doesn't do any good. Well, why doesn't it do any good? Now, here's your next step. But again, I agree, that's why I said keep coming, because I don't know how to put that in words of what we can say to make sure that, yes, we wanna hear from you, but I need you, once we hear, I'm gonna send you down the road to get it fixed in the proper way. Remember back in the day when I was playing basketball, you know, they would call the superintendent or the board chair, and something would be on the table the next day. Instead of going through, you know, that now we have the 24-hour cooling off period, now we have all these other things that are in place to where as you go through this, because of things that happened in the past, that wasn't good. So how do you, and I said, that's the question we don't know.
When you talk about receiving accurate information, are we all receiving the same information? If I get a phone call from a parent, is it the same information they're telling me as if someone else does? And are they taking the right steps when they're calling us? You know, is it, hey, can you start with your teacher? And then if you're not getting anywhere, then I'd like you to check with the principal. But coming right to me isn't the right chain of command. You need to take these steps so we can make sure that they're following up with you.
Right.
Sometimes I think it's like that double funnel Rachel was talking about, or double triangle. You know, a lot of our stuff comes up right to Jonathan, and then that goes out to there, and how do we get the communication there without, I don't wanna go to a teacher and try to micromanage or
You can
get
only go
information
so far ahead, you know, the term, and Chris has heard me say this before, plan ahead, think ahead, work ahead. Well, you can only think ahead so far when you're working with school stuff. I mean, just because stuff changes so much.
And it's about trust.
Yep.
You know, we need to trust each other, and we need to trust that we have the best staff here. We have to think the best of everyone, and if we don't, then we need to change that.
Well, part of the information I want to make sure that you have, and Carrie and Leslie kind of moved right along with the points that you guys have made, is I want to make sure you have the information, not that you're going to take care of it, that micromanaging,
Right.
hey, we're going to
Right.
fix it, we're going
Right.
to make the phone call for you, but that you know enough about what's happening at the school that you, with confidence, would be able to tell somebody, I know that behavior is not acceptable at the high school, at the elementary, as part of Pioneer Bacchus, and that if you contact the principal, the teacher, whatever level it is at, that it will be addressed the way that we have agreed that would be addressed, because you guys set the policies. And so you need to have comfort and get enough information that you know we're following up with the policies that, you know, we aren't gonna accept foul languages, that's okay. Now, having said that, do we have foul language in our hallway?
For sure.
We do. Do other schools have foul language in their hallway?
Yes.
They do, on the buses. Do we try to address it when we can? You know, we do. Do we have parents that leave, messages on our machine with foul language? We do. Do other schools? They do. So it's kind of where it is, and that doesn't mean that the school condones it.
Right.
So just using that example, you can say, I know the school does not condone that language.
Well,
They
I
don't
think-
condone that behavior.
And that, again, circles back to what Vetch was talking about expectation and culture, and I mean, I feel, and I might be partial because, I don't know, but I mean, I feel with confidence I can say that that is happening when people ask me.
And if you ever don't,
Right.
come talk to us so we can give you
right.
the information. I don't mean just talk to me, but we can talk to the principals, we can, you know, talk with the directors and say,
Right.
how do you handle situations such as this? You know, whether it's bringing the AD in, the community ed director in, buildings and grounds, what do you do with this? So that you can speak to it with confidence.
Yeah, I think that's key, that we're all on the same page in that way, because it will be turned around. Right.
Mhm.
Cause a lot of problems.
If you guys are okay, I'd like to ask one more question. I'm just kind of keeping an eye on the clock and, you know, being that it's almost 7:30 to cover one more area here. And we can maybe continue some of this discussion on other meetings if you like. With this, just because it's 7:30, I think they went with the McDonald's theme because they knew that nobody had supper here before. Sitting here starving. But kind of going along with this is, what does strong superintendent board alignment look like during this transition as we're moving to strategic planning and moving ahead? So, making sure that you have confidence of what's happening here on a directional level, so that we can carry that message out through a strategic planning level.
I think that comes down to good communication. If we're having good communication, then that's, makes it easy.
And not be afraid to ask questions.
Right.
That can be hard sometimes when you feel like, I should know the answer to this, but I
Yeah.
don't, and so.
But again, as you do that, from the table, I don't think there's anybody here. I love the questions, and I know I know what you're gonna say next, so it's gonna be interesting to see, but it's fun to see that, and it's fun to, and, you know, I'll wait, because I know what David's gonna say. I believe I know what David's gonna say.
I think the thing is, if we're doing this correctly, someone else asks Chris that question, someone asks her that question, somebody asks me that question, and they're gonna get very similar answers, because we know truly what your direction is, and all of our
Right.
direction is, because we're all in the same, we're all trying to do the same thing, and we're all trying to do it in those same steps. We did not have that when Chris talked about the last time that we tried to put a,
Plan in place.
yeah, put it together. It wasn't gonna pass because we did not have everybody together. They couldn't come to me and ask a question, they couldn't come to some of the other people and ask a question and get the same answer. And that's what you gotta have.
And I think,
You gotta have
I think we do.
I do
Jonathan,
too.
I think to answer your question, I think that the dissemination of the information that you give to us, I think that to hit Dave's point is, it's gonna waver a little bit because our vernacular is a little bit different, but I think that our story, not story, but our facts and our information that we give back to the public right now is spot on. And it's been the best it's been in a long, long time. And that's why I said I am super impressed with each and every one of you, how you are involved. You take the time, you get the information, you listen, you make educated decisions, and then you ask the questions, because I tell everybody that calls me, there's no, listen, what's the acronym for this? There's still acronyms that I can't remember. I should feel like I should know this. Well, yeah, you should, but no, you shouldn't, because there's so much stuff that's going on. And if you don't have that questions, a lot of the times people's like, well, that board meeting took you 15 minutes. Because we were only acting on a yes or a no. Because the 2 hours that we've discussed now 4 different times, the 8 hours that we discussed it, yes, you could come and present, but it's gonna have to be something changing, because we've already discussed this for 8 hours. And we've discussed it in one-on-ones with the superintendent. We've discussed it with one-on-ones with each individual person that we've had that question for. And everybody here has an expertise part of this board, whether you believe it or not. And, you know, I've had the conversation with Ryan and Dave, I've had with pretty much everybody, valuing everybody's opinion that sits at this table. And I'm super excited. Again, we're gonna sell you the whole seat, but you're only gonna need the front half of it, because we're gonna lean, we're gonna be engaged, and we're gonna really, really, really use the logic, the empathy, and the positivity that comes out of this building and this staff to look forward into the next 10 years, and we are going to be more successful than any other district in the state of Minnesota, and I truly believe that.
I think that you have key people, just like you had key people in that book. You have to have key people, but we have to be on board with you and what you're thinking. We have to be on board with what our 2 principals are thinking. We have to be what Jolene's thinking. We have to be all those key people, dean of students, huge one. They need to know what our expectations are. We need to listen to their problems and concerns, because we have a lot of confidence in Jonathan because he's here all the time and we get to bounce everything off. We need to do a better job of getting those other people, whether it's in here, and we have a meeting that's just for the stuff they're working on, the stuff they have the problems with. Just like she said, let's hear what the problems are, not what the fluff is. And I think us as a board, the one way we can do a lot better job is take those pieces, because those pieces are what makes him a better leader. If they're all working and we're all working for the same thing, if he's just trying to get everybody to do it and they're not, that's when we're gonna have the problem.
I'll be looking at the same roadmap.
One of the things that, you know, and as we're sitting here, and we've talked about it as a board, we've talked about it in one-on-ones, we've talked about, is the 7-period day. And we get to it and we talk about it at negotiations time, which isn't really the time. I'd love to have the yeas and the nays. And, you know, let's sit down and talk about what we're trying to do as a board, why we're suggesting 7-period days, what our education aspects of and the needs of our core products of English, math, and science. You know, when do we start teaching this? Why do we? Because you know what? Yes, we are graded on the fact that our test scores might not be the greatest, and we're trying to make that, but we're not using the hurricane mode. We're using the Oregon Trail mode, and we're getting there, and we're being strategic on how we get there. People need to understand that we're having those conversations, but I would really love to have that conversation of, all right, if you don't want the 7-period day, we want to hear from you. But we'd also like to hear and make the staff be invested into the situation, not the issue, not the negativity. What issues are you going to have if we have this? Here's the positives, line on a piece of paper. Positives, negatives. And let's talk about, because maybe that negative isn't that big of a negative. Maybe that positive isn't that big of a positive. But we can have that conversation. And listen, I don't want to come and sit before the board and, oh my God, there's 7 of them looking at me. But if we can have a group come in and talk about it, you know, this is what's going on. And I think a lot of that is like, to your guys' point, is we want to hear some more. Don't feel like we're not approachable, because I think that's what we want to be, is approachable.
Right.
Again, not to take the information and start telling everybody what to do, but maybe we can give him the aha moment, or looking through it, that different set of glasses that we have. I didn't see it that way. There's been a lot of times I said, oh man, I'm just sitting there going, God, I didn't even think of it that way. Because my mind is set to think this way, and everybody, that's why I said, again, coming back to it, and I'm just thankful that, you know, everybody sitting at this this board table is impressive, and they take the time and the time that's needed to do this job.
Well, took the time to read the book. I'm hoping that you found it you know, educational as well as somewhat entertaining in the format that it was presented. You know, I had shared with a few colleagues that I was going to have my board read this book, and they're like, "You're having your board read a book?" And it's like, yeah. And so I appreciate that you did that. And if you would like, I mean, I think we could definitely add just maybe a couple questions, you know, at the end of, you know, whether it be each meeting or just our work session meetings, just to
Oh,
kind of
yeah.
have the conversations kind of continue going. Came really close to buying you guys penguin hats to wear, but but I kind of thought, wow, other than that.
Maybe you'll see it in the parade next year.
I think I want to reread it now with some of these questions in mind.
Yeah.
You know what's it's fun is, and there's different questions in the back of the book too. is as you go through it, and I got another book today and this morning, and it's, you know, if you like to read, I don't really necessarily like to read, but I spend a lot of time in the car, so I do.
You're streaming. You're a school.
Yeah, that's right.
You love to read.
Yeah. Oh, well, I have a point that, you know, it's Dr. Seuss. I don't necessarily love to read, but now there's opportunities. So when I can read, I read a couple chapters, but then I jump in the car and I can put it on my audiobook. And some of the things the information that you can find out, and I don't want to, you know, tell them these are the Soothsayer, but some of these books that are really really eye-opening, and you can take it in life. 15 years ago, I wasn't as empathetic as I am now. But you learn how to, and what that takes and the needs. And I think that, again, and I just want to make sure that we pay attention to the questions. We design straightforward tasks. Everybody is going to be needed, and we make everybody feel like a hero. And everybody can be a hero in this process. And I think that's the most exciting thing. From the smallest of the children to the most tenured person in the community. Everybody has a reason, and everybody wants to be heard. And sometimes logic gets thrown out the window. We need to bring it back inside and say, all right, I understand that you're upset, but logically, this is the way we need to move forward. And these are the restraints that we have. And I think that when you sit down and you listen to the pros and cons of both sides, you have a better understanding of what the teachers are going through, what the students are going through, what administration is going through, and what we might need to see into the future. Because again, I'm very fortunate to be on the board for 16 years. They've left us in good shape. We need to continue to leave them in good shape, because we got grandkids coming up, we got kids coming up, we got all these things that are going on, and I just smile.
Great grandkids.
Oh, Roger, I don't want to get on that. But excited. So, and again, thank you for reading the book and taking the time. Again, it's all tongue in cheek, and sometimes the little quotes on the side of the book was very funny, because I could see our board and I'm like, yep.
Before we adjourn, just one last check-in on April 6th, because I'd like to get something out to families and students. I sent you a text, this course happened on Friday the 13th, which anything bad's gonna happen on Friday the 13th. Last possible day that we were gonna change it, and just, are you okay with us keeping April 6th as that teacher in-service day, not changing it for the students and bringing them in, because it's basically 2 weeks of school and they would have to change their plans. And then we would add a in-service day on the end of the school year for staff for that. And then that doesn't require any breaks or anything like that.
Yep.
I'd ask you to give me a thumbs up, but apparently not everybody wanted to do that.
Chris wanted to do a high five, but.
High four. High four.
Oh, there you go. High four.
He had his little comments. If you're okay with that, I will get a letter out just so that we can inform everybody on that change.
Yep.
With any luck, we won't have any more.
Yes.
Yeah, really.
Ryan.
That was Friday morning, 3:30. Charity gave me a call, or sent me a text and says, if you're up, can you give me a call? Well, I'm up now.
You know, she was probably up all night.
Oh, yes. Oh, yes.
Thanks, Ryan.
We watch that closely, so.
There's no adjournment. I'm gonna go click the board off. But guys, since we didn't have name change down, I meant to do it at the beginning. We do a roll call starting with Dave over there.
Dave Shealy, school board member.
Carrie Mauer Ackerman, school board member.
Ryan Trumbull, school board member.
John Clark, superintendent.
Chris Cunningham, school board member.
Nikki Winston Lodge, school board member.
Roger Hoffman, school board member.
Leslie Bouchonville, school board member.
I thank you all for your time this week.
Thanks, everybody.
I think we don't have McDonald's up here.
Yeah, it is a good thing. Honestly.
Ba-da-ba-bum-bum.